one nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America. Together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Well, Lynn, we made it after the snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
And
maybe we won't have another one. We might have one more. But we'll
one
see.
more. March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb.
Yeah.
But today is February 25th.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're just going to talk about what.
About over.
Yeah, it's about over. Thank goodness. But we're about to discuss some of what we've been up to, you at the county level, and what I've been doing up at the state to not just raise awareness. I consider myself an educator of the legislator.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
If people pay attention. Hope they do.
Yeah. So what's going on in the county level? What you've been busy with?
So the main thing, Mary, that we're working on right now is the strip mining. We actually have strip mining. A lot of people don't even know if that exists around this area, but for the last 2 years, we've had part of our county that's 70 acres right there on the Finley River. And the Finley River, as you know, feeds into the James River, and the James River feeds into Turtle Rock Lake. And we're trying to keep our rivers pristine and clear and clean for people can swim and canoe and kayak and fish and all the things that
Good stewards of God's creation, yeah.
But the previous presiding commissioner allowed that to happen, and so wasn't much to do. But now we're trying to take a big step to prevent that. And the next guy, the guy that owned that land, he is now actually trying to lease the land to another gentleman that wants to even make it worse. He wants to mine for river gravel and river sand. So he wants to go as close as DNR will allow him, which is close, which I can't believe it.
Explain to our audience what DNR is.
Well, natural resources.
The Department of Natural Resources here at the state.
Yeah, the state. And they are going to make it easy for this guy, and then they give him 60 years to make reclamation of the land. 60 years, I said.
He won't live that long.
Well, the only people I know that's living that long, there's some people I've heard that are 120, 130 that's still getting Social Security checks.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and so
and I think they vote too.
I think they do, and so they might be alive. I don't know, but the rest of us are not going to be alive.
That's right.
And so I'm not going to. I'm just one vote of 3 on the commissioners, but I think we're all in agreement that this is just not right. The man that took the topsoil for 2 years, he took the most rich topsoil that you can find on the river and sold it at a premium for 2 years, made lots and lots of money, and unfortunately, he's tore up our county road. So now this spring, I've got to spend taxpayers' money to repair the road that I wouldn't have had to repair. And so I just think there's a whole lot of things wrong with that. But we have a lot of things going on in the county. But we're blessed because Christian County is one of the fastest growing counties in the state. And so we're okay.
But you do have to prevent abuses.
Oh, sure.
And the way to do that is through a formal process, which is what government is set up to do.
We had a town hall meeting.
Yeah.
I ordered a town hall meeting last Thursday. We had over 60 people there, and everyone was well behaved. Everyone spoke one at a time, and listened to each other. But we had everyone against the project. So it's good to listen. It's good for the other commissioners to hear that.
So how did you advertise that the people knew about it so that they could engage?
Well, they'd had a meeting at a church, and I was not able to attend the church on Riverdale Road, but it's a prominent a small town area church, and large group goes there. And so they had a meeting there with DNR and some other officials.
Who organized that meeting? I'm curious.
DNR sent actually the notice to people that were going to be involved. So
Okay.
the notice actually went out to homeowners and people like that. We have people that have lived out on that area. It's a beautiful west side of the county. Just a beautiful, there's eagles, there's all kinds of conservation things to do out there on the river. And there's homes that are $1 million to $1.5 million, $2 million homes. There's also homes that are 150 to 500,000 that have lived there for 20 or 30
Generations.
years. So you've got a lot of people that have owned that land, passed it on to their kids and to their kids, and so there's a lot of history in that area. But what I thought is, I think of like vaccines and measles and things. I think about, you know what, if we don't stop this, then it's going to spread to another part of the county, and pretty soon we're going to look like a case of measles broke out. Our county is a beautiful place because we have all these rivers. These mining operations are going right along the river. Can you imagine they're digging 12-foot holes to take 12 feet of topsoil? 12 feet of soil. They're making these gigantic holes and they're not covering them back up. So what do you think that looks like?
Leaving it for the public to
Yeah.
clean up their mess. Yeah,
so
that's,
it's ugly. And so maybe this is a time to take a stand to try to prevent that.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I admire you for taking that responsibility, for running for an elected office. And I'm also, I'd like to make a shout out to the church that allowed its facility to be used as the meeting place.
Yeah, it's really good. It's an old Baptist church, and it's Jamie Ballew's the pastor.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the brother to Hosey Ballew, I believe.
Who was a commissioner.
Well, it's commissioner, and he's related to Hosey Ballew, but then also the Ballew that was the collector for a long time. So the whole family. So great family. But another issue we have in the county, and I want to talk about what you're doing up in Jefferson City. But another thing we've got, and a lot of places have this now, sales tax is about 80% of our total budget for the county. And that's almost that way in every city,
Yes.
every county. Greene County, it's basically about the same way.
Right.
And it's not property tax, it's not personal property tax. It's really sales tax is what drives smaller government. The problem is everybody's buying online, except me. I'm not the only person.
Buy local.
And so, I see my wife buying more and more. She gets Sunday delivery. She gets, 7 days a week, she can get some delivery. And she buys more and more. And she has never, ever bought one item to avoid sales tax. She's not trying to avoid sales tax.
No, it's a business model. There's many stores now that don't want the warehouse costs.
Right.
So they centralize the warehouse rather than have storage at local sites, and transport it via their FedEx trucks or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's you're almost forced into buying online if there's an unusual product that is not carried in stores and you want to buy. Just recently, I wanted to replace a polished brass doorknob. So I went to both large warehouse home improvement stores. None of them were carrying the polished brass, but you could get it online from one of the stores. So I understand what you're saying.
Well, and the problem is not only that, so we got businesses that are losing revenue in our mom and pop stores. The other problem we have in Christian County, but all over the state of Missouri, and I imagine other states, is the fact that we have people, especially in our area, we have people that don't work in Christian County. They work in Greene County, they work down in Branson, they work everywhere. Christian County has a lot of job offerings, but they don't have enough job offerings and the type of pay that a lot of people are wanting. So I understand that. So you got to go someplace else to work, but you want to live back where we provide the services. The problem with all that is when we took the 2020 census, the government did, we had between 88 and 89,000. Today, just 5 years in now, 5 years from that, it's not quite, it's 4 years, we've got almost 95,000. So what's happening is we are one of the fastest growing counties in the state. We have been fastest growing in the past, and we're second or third right now. And so we have all these new services to provide for all these new people. However, we've got revenue that keeps coming down. So the solution that we look at is, while I understand, because I don't like taxes, and I certainly don't like tax increases, but it looks like to me that next year, April of next year, we're going to have to put the use tax, the online internet sales tax, we're going to have to put it on the ballot. We're going to have to let the people decide, because otherwise it could get to a point, as we saw the graph from 2012 to 2024, last 12 years, the collection of sales tax is going down.
Or another alternative, where my daughter lives, there is a great, you might say, campaign to encourage people to buy local.
We're doing it. We've got the chambers. We've got little videos. We've got little ads. But you know what? It seems like, and I've lived in the county since '77, so 45 plus years. I've seen it. I belong to the chambers. With all my stores, I belong to 15,
Family
16
Pharmacy.
chambers.
Yeah.
I belong to all these chambers. But let me tell you what, they don't ever sustain the program.
Right.
Different directors come in, different people come in, and buying local is something that we should actually just infuse into our brain.
Part of civics, actually.
It needs to be done
to keep your communities alive.
365.
To attract entrepreneurs. That's one of my concerns, is that in encouraging big box stores or corporations to come in, we're actually undercutting one of the greatest sources of economics for a local community. And I'm always about local because I am almost I'm my own campaigner on local control. If you don't want to be bossed around by people who don't know the issues in a particular geographic area, which would be, your higher nodes like state level or corporate. If you want people invested in your community who are going to be sensitive to the needs of the community, you want to attract entrepreneurs. And those people are not the ones, when we have state policies in education that want everybody to have a college degree or go off to college, in all honesty, the entrepreneurs don't have time for that, right?
Right.
Well, present company accepted because you're a pharmacist. But on the whole, in general, it's the people who are very kinetic and almost hyperactive, who have the energy for what it takes to run a business, and they love it. But our education system doesn't really encourage them. Because the system is set up to calculate success of your school system by how many go off into a post-secondary program. Big mistake. Just leave people alone to be who they are.
Right. Well,
but all this comes down to, what effect does it have on keeping your communities alive? We were talking about that with Route 66. When the federal government came in and put all of the interstates in, it actually diminished the ability of local entrepreneurs, family businesses, to survive on Route 66 because they all got bypassed. And government is pretty thoughtless when they're listening to lobbyists for you might say, an agenda insensitive to the local population. Yeah. So, but the only way to sway the people who make government, and then again, I'll take you back to the book of Exodus, because that's where the system was put in place. God was preparing the Jews who were coming out of Egypt. He was preparing them to assume their own governance in Israel. And one of the things he set up was a system where there was local control. You start with the tribes. You start with your families. And then if you don't get satisfaction for the governance outcome that you want, that's when you go up a higher node. And eventually, I say Moses was the attorney general. He was not the lawmaker. he was the lawgiver, the law deliverer. Right. But the whole point was there was a system of work it out at your local level first. So it is biblical. It is freedom. Limiting those higher nodes of government and working out the issues at your local level is exactly what God had planned, starting with the family. And so the kinds of issues we're discussing about what happens in your community, not just economically, but also in terms of stewardship of your natural resources. And Finley River, has a wonderful reputation for being a great recreational river.
It goes through our park. It goes through a lot of the county. So we're just blessed because we have so many rivers and streams and things like that. And I think that's one of the things that really, and our trails, we're really getting known as trails now, all the way from Chadwick, where the old Chadwick Flyer, the railroads that town was booming a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the tracks, we've taken most of the tracks off, but we've got the mound, the buildup of the track, and so now we're making trails, concrete trails and asphalt trails and things, and so we're going to connect from all the way over there to Chadwick, farthest part of the county on the east side, all the way over to Ozark and Nixa, and then on to Springfield and to Willard, and we're moving. The trails are moving, and we're going to connect all these towns together, and people love to just go for a walk.
And that's encouraging. It means that they're spending less time in front of a screen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm real proud of that area too, that we got a lot of green space and stuff like that. In fact, our campus, we got a 40-acre campus, a county campus, so we're putting all the county offices. It's going to be a 15-year program, but when we get it all done, it'll be a one-stop place for all the citizens in the county. You want to see the collector, you want to see the assessor, you want to see the commission, you want to, whoever you're planning, zoning, whoever you want to see, you can go one place and it's just going to be a beautiful campus. But we're building trails around it. We're building amphitheater. We're going to have a place for citizens can come and enjoy the land around our campus. And I think we're building a clinic for our employees. So we're building all kinds of things, and we're paying as we go. So this is interesting because as we sell a building or sell some land, the lots around that 40 acres, then we're making the money to build each time, and we're paying as we go. So I like that too.
Yes, certainly. Stewardship of the citizens' tax money.
Yeah. We won't be in debt when I get out of office. So that'd be good.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been busy today too.
Yeah, so tell me, I talked to you a little bit about, you went up to Jeff City, you do that all the time. I'm going to be busy the next 3 days, Lake of the Ozarks training. I have to get every commissioner. We'll have every commissioner will be there. There's 114 counties. There's commissioners for every county except one up around the St. Louis area. They have some other type of government. I can't remember what it is, but so they don't have commissioners. They call them something different. But anyway, we have to get training or we don't get MoDOT money. That's our state money for highways.
The carrot and stick thing.
So you got to sign in every day, 3 times a day, and they'll give you a certificate at the end, and you go back and you can work with MoDOT. So we'll all be there, but it'll be interesting. We have a lot of other speakers and programs. We'll learn a lot about other things going on. And it's always good to talk to other commissioners and see what they're doing.
The networking.
Get some good ideas, but.
Get
so
the
I know
gossip.
You're up there. So what were you doing? Probably education bills.
The Senate Education Committee meets at 8:00 in the morning on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And so I got a text, because you build relationship with your elected officials. I got a text from the senator who was a sponsor of one of the bills being heard, saying, because you never know, this is the flexibility you need, which is why retired people in particular have an advantage.
Sure.
Right? So, and in my field, which is education, it's gratifying to see people who still care, retired people who will show up to these hearings and say, here's what my experience was like. This is what affected my decision to leave. Yes, I'm retired, but I would have worked more if it had been a more supportive environment. And so that's a lot of what these bills were about today. I was very pleased. But getting back to what prompted my going up there, waking up at 4 a.m, right, and heading up to Jeff City at 5 to meet this 8:00 hearing. I say Senator Bratton lost the straw vote on on when his committee would meet. I don't know if that's true, but it can be burdensome, especially in winter, to be driving up there at that time. That said, the sponsor of a bill texted me and said, my bill is being heard tomorrow. And this is somebody I have a decade-long relationship with. They know I can bring the evidence of what would support their bill, and that's why they asked me to come. So the reason I'm expressing this is because our listeners can build the same kind of relationship with their elected officials, whether it's their senator or their state rep or their commissioner. And so this bill in particular was near and dear to my heart because for over 10 years, over a decade, that particular senator and I have been trying to educate the legislators on what the Department of Education was not telling them. And when you understand the organization of government, you know that these departments are under the executive branch, which is the governor. For years, the legislature said there's nothing we can do because we're the legislature. And I said, no, read the Constitution. The state board has to act as per law. You can still make laws. Yeah. And I think that's what was my aha moment, is that many of these people elected to serve want to serve, but they're not fully aware of what the Constitution says. And where citizens stay home, the lobbyists will fill in the void. So if you don't show up and tell them what your concerns are, or give them information about the Constitution and statute they're not aware of, then you have nothing to complain about because you weren't there, okay? And that's my whole thing, is that I don't believe the followers of Christ should just be complainers, right? It's up to them to become educated, and as a matter of fact, that's what it says in Exodus. Teach everyone the law, and then select out of that group those of good character. To select is elect. Those of good character to become the governing body in all of those levels. That's not well taught in churches. It used to be. It used to be pastors encouraged members of the congregation to run for election because that's what Proverbs says. When evil people rule, the people groan. Right? But if there's good people in those positions of government, then the people thrive. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what Proverbs says. The point is, we've become insulated. We've made our life into silos. We attend church, and then we figure if we've elected officials who wanted to run, then we've done our duty. I was in my 50s before I figured out that was not true. They need help. They don't have staff. I thought their chief of staff or legislative assistant in their office did the research for the background of their bills. Not true at all.
No.
And you could speak to that because you were an elected official. I think that's what they should be teaching in civics classes in high school. You know?
Yeah, that's a shortfall of our public school system.
Absolutely. But that was the purpose of public school system, was to preserve the republic, to know, to self-govern and to engage in governance. And that was the purpose of one of the bills. They were talking about having the International Baccalaureate program credit become freshman credits for post-secondary programs, okay? And I did not speak in support or against the bill. My testimony on that particular bill was, go back to the Constitution. Okay, so this is a senator who was a teacher in the IB program sponsoring this bill. I totally get what she was trying to say. You already do that for advanced placement, which is courses run by the College Board. But I said, I'm going to tell you a story about advanced placement so you appreciate what I'm going to say about IB. When Common Core came into the public conscience, it was introduced, states adopted it, and then the guy who was considered one of the architects of Common Core, his name was David Coleman, he became promoted to become president of the College Board. His very first activity in that position was to revise what was called APUSH, Advanced Placement for U.S. History. So he took what used to be a 10-page outline document, turned it into a document many times its size, and deleted the Mayflower Compact, the study of the Mayflower Compact. The point is, the difference between British history and American history, that dividing line, is the Mayflower Compact. Mm-hmm. So here you have this progressive, basically shaping, rewriting American history by omitting the seminal document of American history. Because that's what the Declaration of Independence was based on. Jefferson wrote, it was the Puritan ethic, the Puritan culture that formulated the American mind. So it was the Compact and the Declaration of Independence, and that's considered the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. And so the point is, when you delete the Mayflower Compact, you get something like the 1619 Project that says American history started the year before. No, it didn't. That was British history, right? So you are actually perpetrating a fraud on the students of the United States. And Nicole Hannah-Jones, who was the author of that whole project, she said, well, I was just proposing it as a literature, as maybe a thought experiment. And I'm like, no, you weren't. Because Miguel Cardona, who was the U.S. Secretary of Education, was promoting it as a resource for teaching history. And he was giving grant money to do it. There was such a great hue and cry over that he withdrew the proposal. But they found another way to get those books into the classrooms, and that is private donors bought the books and distributed it to classrooms for free. This is behind the backs of the local school boards. Okay, so they don't approve the purchase of this book, but the teachers are using it anyway because you got your leftist progressive organizations buying the book and distributing it to teachers. The people who appreciate American history intact either weren't as organized or weren't as wealthy. But they weren't promoting true American history to the same extent. That said, you don't need to have the purchase of the books. So many of our seminal documents are in the Library of Congress. You can download it for free. You just have to know about it.
Right.
And so this is when this bill came up to have IB receive the same status as AP courses to go in, I said, you have to know what happened with AP so that you appreciate if you do IB, that is funded by the UN. The whole purpose of IB is to create global citizens, not American citizens. So this same hijacking of American history happens in the IB program. And I said my own experiences with my daughter who graduated from the IB program. She's 33 and I'm still teaching her American history because that was not a priority in a globalist curriculum. Okay? And I said to the legislators, I did it as points of information. You either testify for a bill, against a bill, or points of information. I said, as points of information, you have to understand that when you authorize these programs for college credit, you're surrendering your authority over the content of that course to a third party over which you have no jurisdiction. I said, I'm not against this IB thing. My daughter, she was awarded a very generous scholarship, in part because she was an IB graduate. I said, but there's a gaping hole here when you compare the mission of IB to the mission you're authorized to fund in the Missouri Constitution. The Missouri Constitution says you can appropriate public funds to protect the rights and liberties of the people. That's different than creating a global citizen. So maybe you could fill in that hole if you consider passing this, but you must be aware this is why we have people who believe America started with slavery. That was British history. The Puritans were actually part of the legacy of the abolitionists in New England that were against slavery. I keep saying the Civil War actually started in 1620. It started with people who had a biblical worldview who hated this idea of slavery. That's what the Egyptians did to the Hebrews. But in the South, they were loyalists to the king who was promoting slavery as part of Great Britain's economy. So that tension never went away, and it exploded as the Civil War. And England actually backed the southern states in the Civil War, trying to break us up again. You understand that, England's benefit for this country to be dissolved if you know British versus U.S. history. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the things I testified on. All right. These people sitting on the dais who have the power over passing that bill may or may not have the background I had in American history. So
I bet you most of them did not.
I'll bet you most of them did not. So that's what you go to do. You use your time to testify.
How many, I'm just curious, how many people from DESI with the black suits, they still wear black suits and black ties, and I mean, can you tell the Department of Education DESI people when they sit in these education committee meetings?
I have to tell you, there was nobody.
Has it changed since I've been up there?
Yes.
Okay.
Last year, the Commissioner of Education, this is another bill that was heard in this morning. It was a bill to give local school districts the ability, the freedom to select their own accreditation body. So there are several options for national accreditation. Currently, they can only be accredited by MSEP 6. That's administered by the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed. That has been the noose around the local district's neck, because depending on how well they did with the agenda that's infused into MSEP 6, it will determine whether your property values remain what they are or go down because you didn't score well, okay? But there's so much in MSEP 6 that has nothing to do with academics and a well-educated person. So much of it is related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's the tool DESE uses to force down into the local districts an agenda that is actually, the origin is in non-governmental organizations, not the people of Missouri. So what happened last year when this same senator tried to get a bill passed that would give that freedom to the school districts, the Commissioner of Education shows up at the hearing and she testifies, right? Points of information. This year, there was no representative of DESE. That particular commissioner has moved on to, you might meet her in the Department of Conservation.
Really?
Yeah. She's now Chief of Education branch over in the Conservation Department. But different people in the administration set the, people or policy. All right. So with her gone, there's a different policy now. But
you know, what was interesting, Mary, was when the 8 years I served, and I was on elementary and secondary education
Yep.
committee for 4 years. So while I watched those as just a committee member, I watched every time that there was a bill that involved DESE, we had, and they almost were all men. Now there's a lot of women that are superintendents too.
that's true.
More, and probably a good thing. But these men, they would all come, I could tell, they would sit on the front row, and they all had black suits and black ties on, white shirts, dress shirts, and all dressed up. They all looked the same, and they would all sit together. And I'd always wonder, and I was sitting up there in the committee where we sat, the dais, I thought, why do you need 6 or 7 of those guys? Because only one would probably testify at a hearing. What was the others for? I always thought about, now I'm thinking about downsizing government, which we should have been doing a long time ago. But they should have been down, what was those guys doing? I was thinking about waste of money back then, back between 12 and 20. I'm thinking, wow, look at all those guys. And a lot of times they were for things that I wasn't for up there in the committee where I sat. And I'm thinking, and I just wondered, so you said it's kind of changed now a little bit.
Yeah, there's a number of things that were going on. One, I'll tell you that a previous superintendent of the Springfield School District was also the paid lobbyist for the district. So one of the reasons he was up here is because he was putting on his lobbyist hat.
Yeah.
But he was speaking to issues as a superintendent. Yeah, I could see where that would be a kind of conflict in terms of you have a superintendent who's beholden to the department for good accreditation scores. So what are they going to do? They're going to support whatever agenda is coming down through the commissioner's office. Okay, so if let's just say the commissioner might have had the same ability the senator had to contact me and saying, I need bodies to show up to impress the legislators, you know. So it becomes a kind of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And there was today the lobbyist for the council, the Missouri Council for School Administrators. But he did not bring his entourage with him. He spoke in favor of the same bill I did, because what is happening now is superintendents don't have the freedom to serve their local communities. They're worried about that accreditation standard. They need a good score. They're basically captured. And I think they're tired of being captured. And so they're actually supporting the bill that'll give them freedom to respond to the needs of their school district. Don't forget, every school district is hemorrhaging teachers. And that's the point I made today. They're hemorrhaging teachers because the noxious accreditation standards handed down by that board, they have no out except to leave. And one of the problems is disruptive student behavior in the classroom.
Sure.
But that's all coming down from the MSEP standards. They're being required to have what are called equitable discipline. And that means even if these students are disruptive, you keep them in the classroom so they don't lose instructional time. Well, excuse me, now everybody loses instructional time because we're having to deal with the discipline issues.
Right.
So a lot of faulty thinking, and if the state board refuses to relent and repeal those standards, fine. We'll find someone else to accredit us. But we cannot any longer have a particular body responding to an agenda of non-governmental organizations that aren't responsive to the parents who are concerned about the kind of education their students are getting in their classrooms. So it sounds complicated. I'm privileged to, I think, be an instrument on God's behalf to help protect the minds of children. My jurisdiction is the state of Missouri. Who knows what happens from here? I am retired. I don't get paid. I don't want that. I want freedom. That's God's idea of liberty. And that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, and you do very good at it. So bottom line there is everyone that was watching our show today, listening to our show, you could be a model citizen. You could be a difference maker, just like Dr. Mary Byrne is. And we'll continue that discussion. We need to talk about our sponsors. We're going to run out of time very quickly. We have two great sponsors, Brad Pistow, Certified Fiduciary Financial Planner, located right in Ozark, Missouri, Christian County. He is one of the best, not just in the state of Missouri, but in the entire country. He has two books, Safe Money Matters and Bulletproof. Both are #1 best-selling books on Amazon for retirement planning. He goes around the country and speaks. He writes for Wall Street Journal, contributes to USA Today. I mean, all kinds of books and magazines he is a contributor for. I just give you a very quick example. My wife and I on Monday went over to his office this week and signed a document to change two of our investment plans, and we both made $40,000+. So in less than 30 minutes, I made $80,000, plus I got a 4% interest rate increase from what this other investment had given me. So in less than 30 minutes, I was able to drink a cup of coffee with him, and my wife and I both made $40,000+ on a bonus for changing one of our investments. We both had the same investment plan. Sometimes we don't. We have some separate ones too. And he calls us when things like this happens. And so it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So this man is one of the best. So call him 417-581-9222. 417-581-9222. Lisa will answer the phone. She'll get you fixed up with sending you material. You don't have to live in Missouri to be a client. He's licensed in 12 states. He also knows friends in the other states, and so he can help you out. Our second sponsor is Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia. It's where I bought my last two cars from Youngblood Motor Group. The owner of that is John Whittaker of that company, and we've had Aaron Swanson, his general manager, on our show. One of them will be on our show here in April. We're going to talk to our sponsors, both sponsors, and they are just absolutely great. They have great cars. They have great service, and I've got a 2020 Grand Cherokee Jeep, and I'm looking to trade cars here in 25. My car will be 5 years old, and it's paid for, and I'm ready to get something with lower miles, and so that's what I'm going to do. I usually buy cars with 4 to 10,000 miles on them. They can find you one. They'll find you a one-owner car, and you save quite a bit of depreciation, but you're still getting a brand-new car with lots of warranty on it. And so, good. So Mary, so what we're going to do is next week we should have a very nice lady, a good friend of ours, Amy Christine Blansett. And we're going to be talking about the homeless situations, what she and her late husband, he died of cancer, but what she has continued to do after his death of trying to help people in the Springfield, Missouri area on homeless situations, how they could be a homeowner, own a home, not just live in an apartment, but actually own their own home. They have programs for people and to bring those people up. And so she's got a very interesting, she's a professor over at Drury College, University, and very smart lady. And so we're going to have her on. Jerry and Kate Angelo, I talked to them last night. There are ministers, dual family ministers that do marriage counseling. They've written books and things like that. They're going to be on. All these people we missed during the snowstorms, ice storms that we've had. So we got to catch them.
Yes, and the Angelos are very active up in Jeff City.
Oh yeah,
too.
they were. When I talked to them yesterday, they were in Dallas, but they were heading to D.C. So they're just like you. They're going from place to place and being a witness and things like that. And then one of the shows is going to be one of the most important shows in our 5 years that we've been doing this. Sarah Effner is a lady from the St. Louis area, and she knows a lot of family friends in China. And we're going to be talking about the organ harvesting, the illegal organ harvesting that occurs in China. I want people to know the truth. I want them to hear it. I'm not sure what kind of video we're going to show. The ones I saw up in Jefferson City would scare you. You would not like to watch them because they actually were taking organs while people were still alive because they want that blood pumping. I'm not sure what we're going to show. I'm actually going to talk to Jim Whining about that, our CEO and attorney for Acts Ministry, because those are the truth. But we have to figure out what we can show on our show. But the thing is, there's a resolution right now and a bill, and we'll probably have the bill sponsor on too. We're going to try to have 2 or 3 people zooming in at different times during that show. So it's really going to be interesting. There is a bill right now in the state of Missouri, and when I was a state rep, we did pass a resolution to ask the United States to continue to put more pressure on China. So we got a lot of things going on. We appreciate you tuning in to Changing Times today, and we'll be back next week.